Hello, my name is Tim McCurdy and I am a guardianship attorney practicing in St. Louis, Missouri. Today we're going to be talking about the differences between a guardianship and a conservatorship in Missouri. In some states you would only be appointed a guardian if someone needed help making their decisions of daily life, managing their affairs, and also handling any finances. In Missouri, the court separates out two different roles to establish both a guardianship and a conservatorship. And in Missouri, the guardian is going to be the person who manages the affairs of daily life for the person. So they're going to make decisions about medical treatment. They're going to make decisions about housing, or what have you. And in a conservatorship, that's going to be limited to managing the finances of that individual. So in Missouri, the guardian is one who is appointed by a court to have care and custody of the person, and that's what we mean by managing daily affairs of a person's life. Or a conservator is one who is appointed by a court to have care and custody of the estate. And when we're talking about estate, what we're talking about are the finances of that person. The guardian is, we also have different terminology when we're talking about guardianship or conservatorship. The guardian is appointed when someone is incapacitated. Incapacitated means that that person, due to some form of physical, mental, or cognitive impairment, is unable to either receive and understand information or communicate such that the person is unable to manage his or her own affairs of daily living, such as food, shelter, and to protect themselves, their safety, such that they are at serious risk of harm if they don't have someone appointed as a guardian. Then for a conservator, the conservator is appointed when someone is disabled. And disabled is defined as someone who lacks the ability to manage his or her financial resources. Now understand that you can definitely have a scenario where someone is found to be incapacitated, so they need a guardian, and they're also disabled and they need a conservator, and they can be talking about exactly the same thing, but there's going to be different language, different terminology, and it may mean that there needs to be different types of evidence offered at the hearing to show that someone both needs a guardian and a conservator. We also use different definitions for the person who needs someone to be appointed to manage their affairs. For a guardian, the guardian is being appointed for the ward. You may have heard the phrase, a ward of the state. That means that a public administrator is serving as guardian for the person. A ward is an incapacitated person who needs a guardian. For the conservator, they are appointed for the protectee. The protectee is a disabled person who needs a conservator. Now, so if you have a case where someone is applying both for guardianship and conservatorship, the ward and the protectee are exactly the same person, and they likely have the same, you're talking about the same impairments, but there's just different terminology used for a guardianship or a conservatorship. So the guardian is appointed for a ward who is incapacitated, meaning that that person cannot manage his or her daily affairs without risk of serious harm. Conservator is appointed for a protectee who is disabled and cannot manage financial resources. Again, keeping in mind, this can absolutely be the same person who is being appointed to serve both as guardian or conservator. So what does that mean as far as what are the differences in what they do? For a guardian, the guardian is going to decide housing. They're going to decide where that person lives, whether that means in their home, or do they need to be in some form of group home, or even as significant as a nursing home facility, or requiring inpatient care. So they're going to decide where that person lives. They're also going to decide what kind of medical treatment that person needs. What doctor is he or she going to go to? Do they need some form of medical treatment? And if it's someone who's able to go to school, where are they going to go to school? What kind of education will they receive? For the conservator, they would handle the money. We're talking about the money that person had before they were appointed a conservator, so they would be able to access all the bank accounts, deal with the banks, write checks, make payments. So if you use the example of the medical treatment, the guardian would decide what doctor the person needed to go see. They would decide what kind of medical treatment that person needed, but the conservator would be the one to deal with the insurance company. They would be the one to make payments for that treatment. With the guardianship and conservatorship, understand again that you absolutely can pursue both, and as we'll see in a different video, if you are completing the petition for guardianship and you're also going to include a conservatorship, it will be contained in the same filing. It'll all be one action, but you do have the option of only pursuing one or the other. So that would be based on individual circumstances. It could be a scenario where the person is in need of a guardian to decide that they need to be, they have a severe impairment where they need to be in some sort of facility, but the individual doesn't have any resources. Maybe the only source of any kind of income would be Social Security disability, and that's going straight to the home or something like that, to where there really are no finances involved. You don't need the conservator. Or on the opposite side, someone who physically is fine and they don't seem to have an impairment mentally, but they are at risk of financial exploitation. They are not, they're wasting through their resources due to some form, for whatever reason, such that it's so significant that the court would want to appoint a conservator. So there are instances where you can pursue one or the other, although it's also very common and more likely to see where someone is asking to be appointed both a guardian and a conservator. Now, you could have different people do different roles. You may have someone who wants to serve, is willing to serve as guardian but doesn't want to handle the money, or for whatever reason you're breaking it out into different roles. And I think that the court, if it's an option, is going to want to see both, one person serve both roles, because it avoids the potential for conflict and for miscommunication, but there's not a requirement that it be the same person. Now, when we talked before about, well, there could be times where you want to have a guardian but not a conservator, part of that reasoning could be the additional requirements that come with serving as a conservator, because if you're serving as a conservator, you are required to post a bond, and you would have to pass the credit check for that and qualify and be able to pay for that bond, because you're dealing with the finances. So there's a concern that if there's misuse of those funds, it's protection for creditors and to ensure that that money is used properly. And then also there will be additional reporting requirements. Once someone is appointed as a guardian and or a conservator, they have a duty every year to provide an annual report to the court to say that the person is still in the same living situation they were before, or there haven't been any changes, or if there have, to bring those to the attention of the court. And for a conservator, there are going to be additional requirements relating to reporting on how the finances have been used and where the money has gone. I hope you found this to be useful information regarding the distinction between a guardian and a conservator. Please remember this video is provided for informational purposes only and is not intended to offer any legal advice. If you have any questions about guardianship or conservator, if that's right for your situation, or if it's a process that you're getting ready to go through, please call and I'm happy to discuss. Thank you.